Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Saur Darkchylde. I'm a player with autism, and welcome back to Let's Play Ace Attorney Destinies in the Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Trilogy. Last time, we just did our day of investigating the case that we're picking up for Apollo after the incident with the explosion room number 4. And while we were there, we run into the captain of the whole space station. To put it lightly, he was very interesting to me. We also ran into Detective Fulbright, who was uncooperative with us today. And then for our final two that we meet a robot named Palco, I think her name was, who gave us of the space center. And then as we're about to leave, we run into another robot along with another witness who saw inside the window of the lounge from the outside. Turns out that this witness is named Aura Blackwell, and as you put the pieces together with her, the sister of Simon Blackwell, who has a big grudge against the judicial system, the court system. And her only word of advice, I guess you would put it her, is to be what you say or present in court tomorrow for trying to get any testimony of Director Cosmos. Let's see if we can take that to heart as we're about to get started with our second day trial for Mr. Starbuck. Get started. December 20th, 2027, 10:15 a.m., District Court, Courtroom number 5.
I suppose we should begin the trial of Solomon Starbuck, or something.
Your Honor, could you please come out from under your bench? There are no more bombs, I promise.
Oh, yes, my apologies. I'm still a little jumpy when it comes to trial involving bombs. I mean, the first courtroom exploded. And then Mr. Tony self-destructed.
I guess that's one way of describing what happened to Tony.
Anyway, it seems that Mr. Justice was seriously injured by Mr. Ornate's actions. So you, Mr. Wright, will be taking up the defense? Do you have standing of what happened in the trial so far?
Your Honor, the defense is ready.
Very well. Is the prosecution also ready? I take it you'd like me to give the opening statement this time.
Looks like the judge has become a pretty good mind reader. Well, he's certainly seen more than his fair share of colorful prosecutors. Say he's something of a veteran of sorts.
Let's see. In the previous part of this trial, we've learned that the victim, Clay Terran, escaped from London carrying the defendant, Solomon Starbuck. There were explosions on the second floor of the Space Center and on it itself. The two astronauts used the Launch Pad 1 corridor to reach the boarding lounge.
And
How could the victim climb down the ladder if he was carrying? That was the mystery that needed to be solved. But Mr. Justice proved that the victim was killed in the boarding lounge. Ross Blackwell, were you able to discover any new facts related to this point?
upon further investigation, we discovered an oxygen tank fragment in the lounge. Surprisingly, it would appear that Justice Dono's argument was correct. So that means the testimonies of the first two people at this are suspect. There were two people who claimed to be the first on the scene. But can trust their statements? The two people were Detective Aiden's Arm and Yori Cosmos, right? I think one of them might have given a false statement to the police? Yes, that's certainly possible. We might have to do a little digging. And just as our team was about to cross-examine Detective Arm, the courtroom bombing incident occurred, and the trial was put on hold. That accursed fellow, he killed my witness! He killed Detective Arm! He definitely put the kibosh on anyone asking her about what she saw. Exactly. In other words, the question of who killed the victim in the boarding lounge has become the main focus of this trial. It's obvious Prosecutor Blackwell still thinks it was Mr. Starbuck. Fulbright said that Blackwell has a thing against the astronaut. Nevertheless, the defense argues that there was a third person in the lounge, and that's who killed the victim.
Objection!
To make such reckless claims in a courtroom takes a bold man, or a stupid one. There was no third person in the building lounge. Or have you gone dotty already, old man?
Objection!
We'll see who's dottered after I trounce you with my years of experience, little boy. In any case, Mr. Starbuck claims he saw someone lying in the lounge, leaving the lounge. Furthermore, a Space Center employee also saw a suspicious figure at the scene.
They saw a third person?
I see my sister has been running her mouth. That's right, I almost forgot that Aura is Prosecutor Blackwell's sister. No matter, she didn't see this mystery person's face clearly. Therefore, there is no evidence to indicate that this person was not the defendant. I guess the possibility that the figure was Mr. Starbuck is still there. In brief, we need to determine if a third person was there or not. To this end, we should hear the testimony of one of the first people of the scene. Director Cosmos, huh?
Very well. Bailiff, please bring the witness to the stand. Why, I believe I've seen you before in the newspapers. Of course you have. Of course you have. For I am Yuri Cosmos, director of the Cosmos Space Center, which was, of course, named after me, Yuri Cosmos. Don't you have anything you wish to ask me?
Looks like he's all geared up to do some bragging.
7 years ago, I successfully lost Act 1 and...
Everyone already knows how brilliant you are. Even I am trying to hold back my tears at seeing such a great man standing before me. So could you please proceed directly to your important testimony?
I see this fine young lad as a proper appreciation of greatness. Then allow me to begin my ethical testimony. Epochal testimony that will be recorded in the manuals of history.
That speech of Prosecutor Blackwell just now. It sounded more like he was poking fun at Director de Cosmos. It's probably for the best that it sailed right over the director's head.
Now then, Director Cosmos, you contended Now then, Director Cosmos, the condensed version of your illustration testimony, please.
What I saw at the scene.
Detective Arm and I rushed towards the boarding lounge center. We went via the control room and peeked in from there to see what was going on inside. We saw a figure standing in the middle of the lounge and Arian lying on the floor. I hate to say it, but I can only imagine the standing figure must have been Starbuck. I see. So in your testimony, you claim you arrived on the scene after the two had escaped from the launch pad to the lounge, and just after the victim was killed. Oh, the horror, the humanity. But what I said is what I saw, and what I saw is what I said. Courageous action to take in the face of such terrifying explosions, wouldn't you say? To save my men, I went personally into a specter of danger, risking my own life for theirs.
Well, what do you know? It sounds like the director really cares about his men. Yeah, although it sounds more like he was scared and just had a peek from the far away.
Is the defense ready to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Director Cosmos' testimony is pretty vague. I'm going to have to press him and draw out more information before I do anything else.
Director Arm and I rushed towards the building lounge together.
Wrong button.
Hold it!
Where were you coming from?
The 6th floor. We were making sure any stragglers made their way to the 4th floor. It was then we heard that about Starbuck and Terran and hurried to the 3rd floor lounge. Oh my! Galactic Scooter here, of course!
Why do you keep calling it galactic? Does it have something to do with space?
Of course! It's specifically designed to be used on galactic battleships.
I see. Then I take it works in zero gravity, too.
Sadly, no. With the current state of technology as it is, I'm afraid it would just float about and be galactically useless.
Well, that's a galactic bummer.
I see. So you rushed to the boarding lounge on your space-age pogo stick. And when you got to the scene, what did you see?
We went via a control room and peeked in from there to see what was going on inside. Hold it!
Let's see. According to his diagram, you didn't go through the control room to get to boarding lounge 1. It looks like you could have gone there from the southern corridor as well.
Yes, but in her haste, Detective Arm rushed ahead of me towards the control room. And all I could do was merely follow behind her.
I see.
So we peeked into the boarding lounge from the control room door, and we saw a figure standing in the middle of the lounge, and Tyrion lying on the floor.
Hold it!
So you couldn't see who the figure was clearly, or what are they doing?
Sadly, the only thing I could tell was that it was a person, standing motionless.
The defendant, no doubt, standing aghast at his deed. What other explanation is there?
I'm so close, but without evidence, I can't prove that person's a third party. I don't relish in this, and I hate to say it, but I can only imagine this standing figure must have been Starbuck.
Hold it!
Aura Blackwell also saw a suspicious figure in the lounge. But she gave the statement that was too dark her to see the person's face clearly. Did you see this figure's face clearly?
No, not clearly. The lighter they're holding illuminated the area around their feet at the time. But other than that, I could see little else. That's why I could see Taryn, but I couldn't see who the other person was.
So, for all you know, it might not have been Mr. Starbuck, isn't that correct?
I would like to believe that. Starbuck isn't the type of man who's capable of murder.
Objection!
When the witness entered the boarding lounge, there was no third party there. Isn't that correct, Great Space Center Director?
Yes, that's right. Only Starbuck and Taryn were there at the time. After we peeked in, the lounge suddenly went dark and the figure vanished.
You mean they disappeared? That's odd.
Objection!
The reason the figure appeared to vanish is because it was the defendant. When the witness weren't looking, he fell on the floor and feigned unconsciousness.
Hold it!
Hold on, Director Cosmos, did you ever take your eyes off the scene?
Just for a brief instant, about as long as it takes for a shooting star to go by.
If you took your eyes off the scene, then this third person could have escaped during the time.
What escape route would this person have used?
The direction opposite of the control room, the southern door, her to the elevators. There's no security lock on that door, so it would have been possible to escape that way.
Objection!
All things are possible, right, Dono? The real question is, do you have any proof?
Well...
If we're just talking possibilities, we could each profess whatever we'd like. An inmate who used to be a university professor and lunar researcher used to say that there is a kingdom of little green men who live under the surface of the moon.
As long as they don't push us in the same... in the name of the said moon for what we've done unto it.
But I say, where's your proof that this quaint kingdom exists?
He's calling your theory a work of fiction, boss. And he's right. I don't have any proof yet. Still... The southern door was a possible escape route. I better make a mental note of that. Director Cosmos, may I ask you a question?
Yes?
Why did you look away from the boarding lounge?
There's actually another tale of bravery behind that. Behind the answer to that.
It was when Detective Arms saw the figure and raised her gun.
Being a great humanitarian and protector of mankind, I tried to stop her.
What? You're saying Detective Arm raised her gun as soon as she saw the figure?
I imagine her instincts as a detective told her that they were the killer.
I don't know about that. And were you able to prevent Detective Arm from firing her gun?
I'm afraid I was too late. I was unable to stop her. She identified herself clearly, and then... she fired 2 warning shots at the shadowy figure. This information about Detective Arm's actions sounds critically important. Please add it to your testimony. Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots at the figure.
Uh-huh.
Objection!
Are you sure you were really paying attention to what Detective Arm was doing?
You doubt my words? Words that will someday be written down in history books?
Somehow, I don't think those exact words will ever be written down in any history books.
Mr. Wright, could you please explain yourself so that we can all understand?
You say that Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots, and yet only 1 bullet hole was ever found at the scene.
What?
Only 1 bullet hole means the gun was fired only once. Yet Director Cosmos is saying Detective Arm fired 2 shots. No editor would allow such a glaring contradiction in the history book.
Objection!
Unfortunately for you, the witness's words are true. We confirm that 2 Detective Arm's gun.
Objection!
But there was only 1 bullet hole at the scene. Where did the other bullet hole vanish to? Ah!
You should know the answer to that already.
I should?
During the previous trial, an oxygen tank was presented as evidence. We already discussed that it was ruptured in the lounge, have we not? Well, it appears that the thing that ruptured it was a bullet. A bullet that was found near the tank, to be precise. This bullet was fired from a .38 caliber gun, the same caliber as the detective's gun.
What?
The rifling marks also match up. There's no question that the bullet was fired from the detective arm's gun.
Rifling marks. They're like a gun's fingerprints on a bullet, correct? And examining the rifling marks on a bullet can tell us the gun it was fired from.
One of the bullets the detective fired found its way into the holographic image display. The other bullet came to a stop near the victim's oxygen tank. Evidence confirms the director's statements that the detective fired 2 shots.
My beautiful contradiction! Gone! All gone!
So that bullet hole was from a .38 caliber, huh? I'd better update the record.
Very good. Now we know the fate of both of the shots Detective Arm fired. Mr. Wright, does that clear up all of your questions?
Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots. One hit the holographic display, and the other hit the oxygen tank. Does that really clear up everything about what happened?
No. No, it doesn't. No, Your Honor, it doesn't. Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots from a .38 caliber gun. But that doesn't explain the existence of a certain piece of evidence found at the scene. A piece that points to the existence of a third person.
Oh?
Very well, but it won't do to keep us waiting, Mr. Wright. What piece of evidence suggests the possibility of a third person at the scene?
What else would it be?
Take that! And what is this metal pellet supposed to be?
Just a little something of great importance we found at the crime scene, Your Honor.
You found it where?
In the floor gutter at the crime scene. It looks like the police and prosecution both missed it. Furthermore, this is a .10 caliber bullet, making it much smaller than the one of Detective Arm's .38 calibers.
Then that means...
Exactly. One more person must have been there in the lounge. A third person who had a gun that could fire .10 caliber bullets.
Grr.
And if that's true, it explains why Detective Arm fired warning shots. This third person fired at Detective Arm and Director Cosmos with their gun. And in return, the detective fired her warning shots. Isn't that how it really went down, Mr. Director Cosmos?
Ha ha ha!
It looks like you've deduced my miraculous tale of survival. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The mystery person fired upon us. What's this now?
What? You never breathed a word of this to me before.
Ha ha! Well, all great men have a secret or two, don't you know?
Foolish little geezer. So Director Cosmos really has been hiding the presence of a third person all along? Director Cosmos, I want you to testify to the court about what you really saw.
You may be a very great man, but in my courtroom, you are just another witness. You won't receive special treatment here. Now please give accurate testimony.
What I really saw at the scene.
Detective Arm and I rushed to the control room together. In the lounge, we saw a figure standing in the middle of the room, and Aaron on the floor. We were still in the control room to the east when the figure fired at us. Given that there was no third person in the lounge when the witness entered it, does this mean the person who fired the gun must have been the defendant?
Not necessarily. It's still possible that it was someone else. Most likely, as soon as Detective Arm and Director Cosmos discovered this person, they escaped through the southern door, the one that didn't have a security lock.
Objection!
Double-edged swords are a tricky lot. Mishandle one, and it is you who it cuts down. Huh? Your reasoning could apply if Space Boy, he were the killer. Think about it. After being discovered, he could have fired the 10 caliber gun. Detective Arm would have responded by firing 2 warning shots. All he had to do was feign unconsciousness to invent a possibility of a third person.
Objection!
But Mr. Starbuck didn't have a gun in his possession when he was found by the police. Nor has a gun been found at the crime scene. Its absence can only be explained if there was a third party who took it with them.
Objection!
Recall the existence of the trash chute in the boarding lounge. The defendant could have simply thrown the gun down the chute.
Objection!
But you cannot deny the possibility of a third person leaving with the weapon. It's up to you to prove that possibility. And I trust you haven't forgotten my little piece of decisive evidence. What evidence? Why, the detonator switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, naturally. The most compelling evidence of all that tells us he was the culprit. Ah! I did forget all about that! Look, your botanist, how deliciously obvious it is that they lack the evidence to rival mine. Wow, he sliced our third-person theory into ribbons and served it to us just like that.
Yes, well, I have a question of my own, actually. That bullet that the mysterious figure shot, what did it hit exactly? It hit me. So does that mean you're a ghost?
I was wondering when you would realize it, your baldness. Director Cosmos is an authentic, bona fide ghost. He can even pass through walls.
Objection!
Prosecutor Blackwell, shame on you for teasing the nice old gentleman. Your baldness, it was just a jest. Please, show yourself again.
Are you sure? In that case, how did you manage to survive being shot, Director Cosmos? Ha ha ha! I'm glad you asked! It was a miracle befitting a great history-making figure such as myself. The bullet hit my glorious Medal of Honor, whereby it ricocheted, thus saving my life. What? That's unbelievable.
I have to check this out. Oh wow, look at that! There's one extra Nexa star.
The odds are literally astronomical. Oh, I guess it really was a miracle.
I'm beginning to really feel like the Cosmos was watching out for Director Cosmos.
Why did you conceal this information, Detective Cosmos? A great man, such as myself, has to hide things on occasion, no matter how much it hurts. It is the plight of the truly great. It may be hard for this generation to understand.
I don't know, but it sounds fishy to me. What else is he hiding? Let's cross-examine him and see what we can find out.
Now then, Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, please. Directive Arm and I rushed to the control room together.
Hold it!
We clearly heard all about that part. Do you have any new information?
Well, let me see. If you have another hour or two, I could tell you about that @1 miracle.
Hold it!
We already know about that too. Tell us something related to this incident.
I see. You want to know about the incidents. Well then, let me tell you about the many incidents that made me the man I am today. Yes, if you have the time, I will tell you all about the upbringing of this great man.
You've told us all about that already as well. Oh, what we need is your testimony.
Did I really already tell you all about my upbringing? I don't recall doing so. Director Cosmos, perhaps you could save your boastful tales for later. If I must. Well, we peeked in through the control room door and in the lounge, we saw a figure standing there in the middle of the room and Tarim on the floor.
Hold it!
But was it so dark you couldn't see the figure's face? Isn't that right?
Yes, the room was as deep and dark as outer space itself. Speaking of outer space, during the @1 launch 7 years ago,
If it isn't
If it's about the Hat-One miracle again, and you can sawed off and tell it to the starry mutt.
Ha ha ha! Excellent idea! No reason why the animal whole world shouldn't hear about my greatness.
And so they shall, but first your testimony. What happened next?
We were still in the control room to the east when the figure fired at us.
Let's see.
Objection!
Director Cosmos, I believe you are telling this great court a glorious lie.
A great man like me tell a lie? Have you ever heard of such a thing in all of history?
My accusation is based on the positions of the people who are in the lounge. According to your testimony, you and Detective Arm were near the control room door. And the mystery figure was standing in the middle of the boarding lounge. If, as you say, the figure fired a gun at you from this position, then the bullet should have traveled in this direction. However, we found a 10 caliber bullet here.
Oh!
The trajectory and where the bullet was actually found contradict each other. Director Cosmos, where were you really when you were being shot at?
Gah! Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the human merry-go-round.
Objection!
Don't tell me you've forgotten already. Didn't the witness himself tell you? The bullet hit his medal. Of this, there is no mistake.
Objection!
But in that case, the bullet should have been found near the east side of the room. Are you trying to say that you can explain this inconsistency?
Of course.
I didn't think so. What?
Oh, great Director Cosmos.
Yes? Is there something you'd like me to expand upon?
You were in fact not in the control room to the east, were you? You were looking into the lounge from the door to the south. Is that right? Not right?
Gah!
What are you getting at?
Use your own brain. Your head must have some use other than housing that bird's nest.
Bird's nest? Why does everyone pick on my hair?
Director Cosmos and the detective witnessed the scene from the southern door. The killer fired at them from there, and that is why the bullet was found in the south.
Ah, that makes some sense, actually.
Also, the witness being at the southern door is rather favorable for the prosecution.
Huh? I've got a bad feeling about this.
How about it, Director? If you don't tell the truth this time...
Yikes! His handcuffs!
You will become a rust upon my sword. I relish the chance to cut down that great man.
All right, I'll tell the truth. Just put your sword away. You are correct. I, the great Yuri Cosmos,
was looking into the room from the southern door.
What? That's the complete opposite of the testimony he's given so far!
And now you have lost your possibility a third person was in the room.
I have? How?
The director and the detective were near the southern door, meaning the killer couldn't have escaped through there. The western door required a handprint recognition. The corridor beyond was filled with smoke. The only escape route left was the eastern control room door. And the only way to get through there was the Director Cosmos' fingerprints. In short, there would be no escape for any third person that had been there.
My third person just disappeared, like in one of Trucy's magic tricks.
Order! Order in the court! Director Cosmos, why did you tell such an outrageous lie? You were working for the defendant, isn't that right? Yes, it was all for the love of my men. If I said I was in the eastern control room, it would mean the culprit could have escaped through the southern door. It would have meant that there could have been a third person. All I wanted to do was protect Starbuck. I said I was in the control room to invent an escape route for a third person.
What a convoluted lie! Was he really covering for the defendant?
It looks like we've come to a conclusion. That the defense's argument, the possibility of a third person, has crumbled.
No!
It's over.
Yikes. The judge is about to hand down his verdict. Think, Phoenix, think. This is the perfect time to try and turn my thinking around. If a third person had no way of escaping the scene, then what if the third person at the scene was the third person? Then what if one of the people at the scene was the third person? Wait, what if the whole premise is all wrong? Director Cosmos said that he and Detective Arm rushed to the scene of the crime together. But what if the premise isn't true? What if one of them reached the scene before the other one? And if that person entered the lounge, then they would have been the third person.
The defendant is the only one who could have killed the victim and shot the director. There doesn't appear to be any room for argument against these claims. I will now render my verdict.
Objection!
Please wait, Your Honor. There is still one possibility.
Oh, this had better be good, Mr. Wright.
There is one and only one person who could have escaped from the scene. And that person would be the first person who arrived on the scene. Then, upon entering the boarding lounge, the second person who came via the southern door, that's why the first person fled using an escape route that was accessible only to them.
Very well. Let's hear more about this theory. Who is this person who could have escaped from the boarding lounge?
Well, who else could it be?
Take that!
What? But that's... Mr. Wright, what are you claiming here?
Of all the people who were at the scene, only the witness could have escaped. The director is the only one with the authority to open the control room door, after all.
But that means...
Exactly. The true identity of the third person in our current witness is our current witness. Director Yuri Cosmos!
Gah!
What? What?
Order! Order in the court, I say! Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself in more detail.
I assert that Director Cosmos arrived at the scene before Detective Arm and entered the boarding lounge alone. Detective Arm arrived after that and saw a suspicious figure who was actually Director Cosmos standing in the lounge. And that's why she fired those 2 warning shots.
Gah! I've been hit! I've been hit on the starboard side!
Captain Wright, it's a direct hit on the enemy ship, sir. A magnificent shot.
Ordnance shots fired from the enemy ship! Prepare to intercept!
Cosmos, you have told a lie in this court once again.
I've been hit! I've been hit on the port side! Enemy has called in reinforcements!
Earth to Cosmos Control Center, requesting permission to ask that you return to reality.
But my ship will not go down to anything less than an ultimate weapon of evidence!
Objection!
But I do have evidence. In fact, you could say that your battleship bears its scar.
Gah.
If Director Cosmos is the third person or a Blackwell Saw, this third person fired a Detective Arm and Director Cosmos with their gun. And in return, the detective fired her warning shots. Isn't that how it really went down, Director Cosmos?
Aha! It looks like you've deduced my miraculous tale of survival. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The mystery person fired up on us.
Director Cosmos must have been the one who fired the 10 caliber gun. When Detective Arm discovered him in the lounge, it only makes sense that he would have turned and fired at her. Therefore, the evidence on the director's body is of a different kind of related relevance than before. Once we compare it against another piece of evidence, the mark that you received from the third party will be all the proof we need. The proof that you were the one there in the lounge.
Brace you for further impact.
Comparisons against this piece of evidence will prove that you were the one in the lounge.
Take that!
The .38 caliber bullet found on the floor at the scene of the crime didn't hit the oxygen tank. It hit Director Cosmos' medal. If we have that ricochet mark on the medal analyzed, I'm sure the caliber will match up. And if that mark proves to be from the .38 caliber bullet, It will prove that you were the third person we've been looking for.
The bridge is destroyed! Losing altitude! All hands abandon ship! If that's true, then what about the bullet that hit the oxygen tank?
It was a 10 caliber bullet. In other words, it was the bullet fired by your Cosmos. Isn't that right, Director?
No! You got it all wrong! What? The engines have started up again? It's a miracle! I'm not going down yet! Witness, stop this at once and confess the truth.
If you don't want the history books to say that a great man was a great liar, then accept your fate and tell the truth.
Are you giving me orders? Me, the Great Director Cosmos Space Center? But the Cosmos revolves around me! Someone get me off this thing!
I think we're about to see a breakdown.
Order! Order in the court! Will someone please stop the witness from spinning? Phew. Thank goodness we were able to stop him from spinning off the face of the earth.
While he was twirling, I took the liberty of running the analysis on the mark on the metal. It was made by a 38 caliber bullet, matching it with the size of the Detective Arm's firearm.
Are you ready to confess the truth, witness? No! You've got it all wrong! This is just a misunderstanding!
Is he going to start piling on more lies? Looks like it. But no matter how many lies he tells, I'll just expose them one by one. I'll make that big liar tell the truth. And it looks like we'll have to deal with part 2 of his testimony next time in Let's Play. Replay. Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did and would love to see more, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment if you want. Ring that bell to be notified when our next video comes out. We do new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and sometimes Saturday and Sundays. All of this helps my channel to grow so you have more videos to enjoy. Until the next episode for this court case, this is Saur Darkchylde, signing off. Have a good night, folks.